The first sign something was wrong came during our anniversary dinner. Faith reached across the table and grabbed Jordan's arm, laughing at some inside joke I wasn't part of. Her diamond tennis bracelet, my Christmas gift to her, caught the candlelight as her fingers lingered just a moment too long. I'm Brendan, and until that night, I thought I had it all. Successful tech company, beautiful wife of 5 years, and a close-knit family. Jordan, my brother-in-law, had been pushing to partner with me on a startup venture. I'd been hesitant, but Faith kept insisting it would keep things in the family. "Remember that vintage Rolex I lost last month?" I asked, nodding toward Jordan's wrist. Faith's smile flickered. "Honey, that's just a similar model. Jordan got it at that auction in Phoenix. The same scratch on the bezel, same worn spot on the band." Jordan pulled his sleeve down. "Great minds think alike, right, bro?" The conversation moved on, but something cold settled in my stomach. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. Faith's gentle breathing beside me felt like a mockery. I got up to grab my tablet, hoping to distract myself with work. The tablet wasn't in its usual spot on my desk. I found it in Faith's home office, buried under some papers. As I picked it up, a notification popped up. A cloud sync error from an unfamiliar folder. "Just a peek," I whispered, clicking the folder icon. Audio files, dozens of them. The most recent was dated yesterday. I grabbed my earbuds and pressed play. "He's such an idiot," Jordan's voice, slightly distorted. "Doesn't even realize half his inheritance is already funding us." Faith's laugh, that same laugh from dinner, cut through me like glass. "By the time he figures it out, we'll be too big to stop. The company's real tech genius was always you, Jordan. Brendan just got lucky with his timing." "Speaking of timing, did you move those funds like we discussed?" "Already done. The dummy account is ready. God, his password was so obvious. Our wedding date. How cliché can you get?" I stopped the recording, my hands shaking. 5 years of marriage, countless family dinners, all those late-night strategy sessions with Jordan. It had all been a setup. They weren't just stealing my money. They were stealing my life's work. My phone buzzed. A text from Faith. "Coming to bed soon, honey?" I typed back. "Just finishing some emails. Sleep well." Each word felt like acid. Back in our bedroom, Faith had rolled over to my side of the bed, her face peaceful in the dim light. I watched her for a moment, remembering how we met at that tech conference in Seattle, how she'd seemed so genuinely interested in my work, how she'd introduced me to her brilliant brother Jordan, who had such amazing ideas. I slipped into bed, keeping to the edge. My mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? Who else was involved? How much had they already taken? But one thing was crystal clear. I couldn't confront them. Not yet. They'd just deny everything, cover their tracks, maybe even accelerate whatever they were planning. No, this required something more. Precise. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I lay there, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling, imagining all the ways I could dismantle their little scheme. They thought they were so clever, playing the long game. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I hadn't built my company by being naive. I dreamed of fire and ice, and when dawn finally came, I knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, I drove to my father Eugene's house, needing to understand just how deep this betrayal went. Dad had always been proud of how I'd grown my tech company from scratch, and he'd been equally excited about Jordan's supposed startup venture. "Morning, son," Dad said, ushering me into his study. "You look like hell." "Rough night." I settled into the leather chair across from his desk. "Dad, remember when you transferred that inheritance money to help fund Jordan's startup?" He nodded, shuffling through some papers. "Of course. Faith was so passionate about keeping it in the family, said you two had worked out all the details." My stomach turned. "Could you show me the transfer documentation?" "Sure. Though I thought you had copies." He pulled out a folder. "Faith handled most of it. Said you were too busy with your own company to deal with the paperwork." I flipped through the documents, my hands growing cold. The signatures were there. Mine, Faith's, Jordan's. Except I'd never signed anything. "Something wrong?" Dad asked. "Just double-checking some numbers." I forced a smile. "How much exactly did you transfer?" $2 million. He leaned forward. "Brendan, what's going on?" "Just being thorough." I snapped pictures of the documents with my phone. "Have you seen any progress reports from Jordan?" Dad frowned. "Faith sends monthly updates. Very technical stuff. Goes right over my head. But the projections look good." Of course they did. Back at my office, I called Grace, my most trusted analyst. "I need you to look into something, quietly." She arrived within minutes, closing my office door behind her. "What's up?" I showed her the documents. "Can you trace these transfers? And I need everything you can find on Clayton Tech Ventures. Jordan's company?" She studied the papers. "Give me an hour." While I waited, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Faith and me at our wedding. Jordan giving his best man speech, talking about how lucky he was to gain a brother. The three of us at countless family dinners, planning the future. Grace returned, her face grim. "You're not going to like this." She laid out printouts on my desk. Bank statements, corporate filings, wire transfers, a web of shell companies and offshore accounts, all leading back to Jordan and Faith. "There's more," Grace said. "I got an anonymous tip, someone claiming Faith's been meeting with Thomas, the CTO from Rivaltech." "Our biggest competitor?" "The same one that mysteriously developed technology similar to your latest project." My phone buzzed. A text from Faith. "Dinner tonight? Jordan has amazing news about the startup launch." I texted back, "Wouldn't miss it." Grace watched me carefully. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing." I stood up, straightening my tie. "Yet." "They're stealing from you, Brendan. Your money, your tech." "I know." I looked out my office window at the city below. "But if we move too soon, they'll cover their tracks. We need more." "We? I need your help, Grace. They don't know you're involved. If you're willing, I have a plan." She nodded without hesitation. "Whatever you need." I picked up my phone again, scrolling through contacts until I found Dwayne Valdez, the best private investigator in the city. One more call to make. That evening, I sat across from Faith and Jordan at our favorite restaurant, watching them share knowing glances over their wine glasses. Jordan was wearing my Rolex again, gesturing animatedly about market projections and investor interest. I smiled and nodded, playing my part perfectly. Let them think they were winning. Let them think I was blind. The game was just beginning. Grace played her part perfectly at the investor meetup. Dressed in a sharp business suit, she introduced herself to Faith and Jordan as Alexandra Ross, representing a major venture capital firm. I watched from across the room, pretending to take a business call. "Your technology sounds fascinating," Grace said, sipping champagne. "But I'm curious about the core innovation. How does it differ from existing solutions?" Jordan launched into his rehearsed pitch. "Our AI processing algorithm is completely unique, nothing like it on the market." I noticed Monica, their PR manager, shift uncomfortably nearby. She'd worked with me before Jordan poached her for their startup. "The processing speed claims are impressive," Grace continued. "Would you be willing to share some technical documentation?" Faith touched Jordan's arm. That same possessive gesture I'd grown to hate. "We'll have our team send you the specs, though of course some elements are proprietary." I stepped outside to meet Dwayne, who was parked across the street in his surveillance van. "Getting everything?" He nodded, adjusting his headphones. "Crystal clear. Your wife just mentioned something interesting about borrowed code." "Keep recording." Back inside, Monica caught my eye and gestured toward the hallway. I followed her to a quiet corner. "Brendan," she whispered, glancing around nervously. "I need to tell you something. The technology they're pitching, it's not theirs." "What do you mean?" "I found documents on the shared drive. Design specs identical to Rivaltech's unreleased project. Word for word. My hands clenched. Can you get me copies? Already did. She pulled out a USB drive. I'm not going down with them when this implodes. I slipped the drive into my pocket. Why are you telling me this? Because I liked working for you. You were honest. She looked away. And because Jordan's getting sloppy, bragging about how he played his rich brother-in-law for a fool. Later that night, Faith was in the kitchen when her phone buzzed on the counter. She went to check the oven, leaving it unlocked. My heart pounding, I picked it up. There it was. A messaging app I'd never seen before. Conversations with Jordan, with Thomas from Rivaltech, with offshore banking contacts. I quickly photographed everything I could with my own phone. "Honey," Faith called from the kitchen. "Can you open some wine?" I put her phone down exactly as I'd found it. "Sure thing." The next morning, Grace called. "We need to meet, now." I found her in the park near my office. She looked pale. "Remember that shell company we traced to the Caymans?" She showed me her tablet. "It just received a massive wire transfer. The authorization code used your father's social security number." "They're stealing from him too?" "It gets worse. The transfer was authorized using passwords only you would know. They're setting you up to take the fall if things go south." My phone buzzed. A text from Jordan. "Big news. Monica booked us the Grand Plaza for the launch event. Time to show the world what Clayton Tech can do." I showed Grace the message. "The launch event. That's where we'll end this." "How?" "By giving them exactly what they want. A big audience. Every investor, every tech journalist, every competitor in the industry." "They'll be expecting you to give a speech," Grace said. "Supporting the family venture," I smiled coldly. "Oh, I'll give them a speech, all right. One they'll never forget." Just then, Monica texted. "Jordan's drinking again. Recording him now. You need to hear this." I turned to Grace. "Ready to help me burn it all down?" She nodded grimly. "Let's give them a launch event they deserve." "Tell me more about your funding structure," Grace said, sitting across from Faith and Jordan in their sleek startup office. She'd been playing the interested investor role for 2 weeks now. "We're completely self-funded," Jordan boasted, lounging in his chair. "Family money, smart investments." Faith nodded, wearing the emerald necklace I'd given her for our 4th anniversary. "My husband's been very supportive." "Speaking of your husband," Grace said carefully, "I heard his company's working on similar technology." Jordan's smile tightened. "Brendan's project is different, more primitive. Because it's actually his," I muttered, watching the meeting through Dwayne's surveillance feed from a coffee shop across the street. Faith leaned forward. "Look, Alexandra, let me be frank. We have leverage that other startups don't. Inside knowledge of the industry. Special access to resources." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. Dwayne adjusted his equipment. "Got something interesting here, boss. They're getting sloppy." Later that night, Grace called. "You need to see this now." I met her at a 24-hour diner. She opened her laptop, showing me a series of transactions. "That's your wedding date," she pointed to a password hash. "They used it to access your private accounts. But here's the killer. Look at the destination. My inheritance money, my father's money, all flowing into an account in the Caymans." But what made my blood run cold was the beneficiary name. Faith Clayton Solo. "She's planning to leave," I said, the realization hitting me like a punch. "After the launch." "There's more." Grace pulled up an email chain. "They've been selling your proprietary tech to Rivaltech, piece by piece, for months." My phone buzzed, Faith asking where I was. I texted back about a late meeting. "How are you staying so calm?" Grace asked. "Because I'm going to destroy them so completely they'll never recover." The next morning, Faith was unusually affectionate, making my favorite breakfast. "The launch is going to be amazing," she said, touching my shoulder. "Jordan wants you to give a speech. Show everyone how supportive you've been." Of course, I smiled. Anything for family. After she left, I called Monica. Send me what you have. 10 minutes later, my email pinged. The audio file made me grip my desk until my knuckles went white. Jordan's drunk voice. Once the launch hits, we're golden. That idiot's been bankrolling his own destruction. Faith's laugh. He always wanted to keep things in the family. Well, he got his wish. What about the real code? The stuff we took from his servers? Thomas at Rival Tech already has it. Paid premium too. By the time Brendan figures it out, we'll be enjoying his money somewhere warm. I forwarded the file to my lawyer, then called Grace. The launch is in 3 days, I said. Time to set the trap. The investors are confirmed, she replied. Every major player in tech will be there, even Rival Tech's CEO. Perfect. And the police? On standby. They're very interested in the evidence of corporate espionage. That evening, Faith showed me her dress for the launch. Black, elegant, expensive. Bought with my stolen money. You'll be proud of us, she said, kissing my cheek. Jordan and I have worked so hard for this. I know you have. I held her close, one last time. It's going to be an unforgettable night. She had no idea how right she was. I invited my father over for dinner 2 nights before the launch. Faith seemed nervous when I told her, but covered it with her usual smile. Dad's invested so much in this venture, I said. He should hear about the progress firsthand. Jordan arrived first, carrying an expensive bottle of scotch, probably bought with my money. Faith busied herself in the kitchen while I poured drinks. To family. Jordan raised his glass, wearing my Rolex with shameless confidence. Dad arrived looking tired but happy. My successful children all together. During dinner, Faith couldn't help herself. You know, Eugene, it's amazing what the right people can do with proper resources. Some people just naturally know how to maximize opportunities. I watched my father's face carefully. Speaking of resources, Dad, have you reviewed the latest financial reports? Jordan cut in quickly. Let's not bore everyone with numbers. The launch will speak for itself. No, I'm curious, Dad insisted. 2 million is a significant investment. Faith's fork clinked against her plate. Well, as I've documented in the monthly reports, the ones you've been sending from a private email account? I asked innocently. The room went silent. Faith's smile froze. What do you mean, private account? Dad asked. Just better security, Jordan said smoothly. Industry standard. I pulled out my phone, pretending to check messages. Oh, interesting. Grace, my analyst, just sent me some projections. Dad, want to see the real numbers? Faith stood abruptly. I'll get dessert. In the kitchen, I heard her frantically whispering to Jordan. My phone buzzed, a text from Monica. They just booked flights to Grand Cayman, leaving day after launch. Everything okay? I called out. Perfect. Faith's voice was too high. Jordan, help me with the plates? I showed Dad some innocuous spreadsheets while they composed themselves. When they returned, Faith's hands shook slightly as she served the dessert. You know, I said casually, Rival Tech announced some interesting developments today. Their new processing algorithm sounds familiar. Jordan's face reddened. The market's competitive. Similar solutions emerge. Similar? I took a bite of dessert. Or identical? What are you implying? Faith snapped. Dad looked between us, realization dawning. Is there something I should know? Only that your children have been very creative with your investment, I said. Jordan stood up. We should go. Big day tomorrow. Launch preparations. Of course, I smiled. Wouldn't want you to miss your flight. Faith's spoon clattered to the floor. After they left, Dad turned to me. Son, what's really going on? I showed him everything. The transfers, the fake reports, the stolen technology. His face grew darker with each revelation. I trusted them, he whispered. I trusted her. I know, Dad. So did I. I refilled his scotch. But trust me on this, they won't get away with it. What are you going to do? Come to the launch. Watch what happens when their house of cards collapses. Later that night, Grace called. Monica came through. She recorded Jordan bragging to investors about how they played you. It's damning. Add it to the presentation. Brendan. She hesitated. Faith's been asking about me. The real me. I think she suspects something. Let her. It's too late for them to stop what's coming. I walked through my quiet house, looking at photos I'd soon take down. Faith and me in happier times. Family gatherings where every smile now seemed fake. My phone buzzed. A message from Faith. Can't wait for you to see everything we've built. Love you. I didn't reply. In less than 48 hours, she'd see exactly what I'd built. Their complete destruction. The day before the launch, I met Dwayne at his office to review everything one final time. Stacks of evidence covered his desk, financial records, stolen code, forged signatures, and surveillance photos. The police are ready, Dwayne said, organizing files into folders. They'll wait for your signal tomorrow night. And Rival Tech's legal team? Salivating. Those code theft documents are bulletproof. He played one of Monica's recordings. Jordan's slurred voice filled the room. Once we get the investor money, we're gone. Poor Brendan won't know what hit him. My phone buzzed. Faith asking about my speech for tomorrow. I ignored it. Your wife's been busy, Dwayne continued, pulling up surveillance photos. 3 meetings with bank representatives today, trying to expedite transfers. Let her. Everything's frozen by tomorrow anyway. Grace arrived with fresh intel. They just added Thomas from Rival Tech to the guest list. Bold move. They think they're untouchable, I said. That's exactly what we need. My phone buzzed again. Jordan this time. Bro, don't forget to keep the speech positive tomorrow. Focus on family values. Grace showed me her tablet. Monica just sent this. You need to hear it. The recording was from their office earlier today. Faith's voice was clear. Once we have the investor money, we'll transfer everything offshore. Brendan's accounts, his father's money, all of it. He's such a trusting fool. Jordan laughed. Remember when he actually thought I admired him? That I wanted to learn from him? Please, Faith scoffed. The only thing he was good for was his money and connections. And now we have both. I gripped the edge of Dwayne's desk until my knuckles went white. You okay? Grace asked softly. Play it at the launch, I said. Right after my speech. Back home, Faith was trying on her dress for tomorrow. Honey, what do you think? Beautiful, I said, and it was true. She'd always been beautiful, just empty inside. I'm so excited for tomorrow, she beamed. Jordan says we might hit 8 figures in initial investment. Quite a jump from Dad's $2 million. She froze for a split second before recovering. Well, that's business, right? Leverage initial capital for greater returns. Right. I kissed her cheek. I'm going to work on my speech. In my study, I made final preparations. Emails to key investors, time to send during the presentation, police warrant details, a video compilation of every incriminating conversation, every stolen document, every betrayal. Monica texted, They're celebrating early. Jordan's drunk, bragging about the Cayman Islands, recording everything. I forwarded her latest audio to Grace. She replied immediately. Added to the presentation. It's ready. Faith knocked on my study door. Coming to bed, honey? Soon. Just perfecting tomorrow's speech. I smiled. Want it to be memorable. After she left, I called my father. Everything set for tomorrow? Yes, he said grimly. I'll be there to watch them fall. I looked at my reflection in the dark window. Tomorrow, they'd learn what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness. My phone lit up one last time. Faith. Love you. Can't wait for our big day tomorrow. I typed back, It'll be unforgettable. And it would be. They thought they were so clever, playing the long game. But they never realized they were playing against a master. Tomorrow their perfect little scheme would shatter. Tomorrow they'd learn the true cost of betrayal. I smiled at my reflection. The stage was set. The trap was ready. Let the show begin. The Grand Plaza ballroom buzzed with energy. Investors, tech journalists, and industry leaders filled the room. Faith and Jordan worked the crowd, champagne in hand, while I watched from near the stage. "Everything ready?" Grace whispered, passing me. I nodded slightly. The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket. Jordan took the stage first. "Welcome, everyone. Today marks the beginning of a revolution in tech." He launched into his rehearsed speech, every word stolen from my company's research. Faith beamed from the front row, wearing diamonds bought with my father's money. Dad sat stone-faced beside her, knowing what was coming. "And now," Jordan grinned, "I'd like to invite my brother-in-law, Brendan, to say a few words. None of this would be possible without his support." Applause as I took the stage. Faith blew me a kiss. "Family," I began, "is built on trust." I plugged the USB drive into the laptop. "Jordan and Faith have worked so hard on this venture. Let me show you exactly what they've built." The screen behind me lit up. Bank statements appeared, showing transfers to offshore accounts. Jordan's smile faltered. "There seems to be no technical issue," I continued. "Just proof of theft. $2 million stolen from my father through forged documents." Faith stood up. "Brendan, what are you doing?" "Showing everyone the truth." I clicked to the next slide. Their private messages about stealing my company's code. "Here's how they sold proprietary technology to rival tech." The room erupted in murmurs. I spotted Thomas from Rival Tech trying to slip out, but security blocked the exits. "And this," I played Monica's recording, "is from yesterday." Faith's voice filled the room. "Once we have the investor money, we'll transfer everything offshore. Brendan's accounts, his father's money, all of it. He's such a trusting fool." Jordan lunged for the laptop, but Grace was faster, blocking his path. "The police are here," I announced, "along with Rival Tech's legal team, and federal investigators interested in wire fraud." Faith ran toward the stage. "I can explain. Explain the fake companies, the stolen technology, the flights booked to the Caymans for tomorrow?" "You bastard," Jordan snarled. "You set us up." "No," I said calmly. "You set yourselves up. I just gathered the evidence." Officers moved through the crowd. Faith turned to run but crashed into Monica, who smiled and held up her phone. "Got some more recordings if anyone's interested." "Faith Clayton and Jordan Clayton," an officer announced. "You're under arrest for fraud, corporate espionage, and theft." As they were cuffed, Faith locked eyes with me. "I did love you once." "No," I said. "You loved what I could give you. There's a difference." Jordan struggled against the handcuffs. "You can't prove anything." I gestured to the screen, still cycling through evidence. "I already have." The room had descended into chaos. Investors demanded answers. Journalists snapped photos. My father stood up, walked to the stage, and hugged me tight. "Well done, son," he whispered. I watched as Faith and Jordan were led away, their perfect plan in ruins. Grace appeared beside me with a glass of water. "You okay?" she asked. "Better than okay." I loosened my tie. "Much better." The police chief approached. "We'll need your statement, but this is pretty clear-cut. Corporate fraud, identity theft, wire fraud. They'll be away for a while." I nodded, watching Faith's designer dress disappear into a police car. She'd wanted to make headlines with this launch. Well, she got her wish, just not the headlines she'd planned. "Let's go," I told my father and Grace. "I think we've all seen enough. Behind us, their empire of lies crumbled to dust." Sometimes, revenge is best served not just cold, but in front of an audience. The morning sun streamed through my office windows as I signed the last of the divorce papers. My lawyer gathered them efficiently, nodding with satisfaction. The judge was particularly interested in the evidence of financial fraud, she said. Faith won't be contesting anything. Hard to contest from a jail cell, Grace added from her seat by the window. My phone buzzed. A text from Monica. Thought you'd want to see this. She'd attached a news article about Jordan's guilty plea. 15 years for fraud and corporate espionage. Faith was still holding out for a trial, but the evidence was overwhelming. Your father's money has been recovered, my lawyer continued. The offshore accounts were frozen in time. I stood up, walking to the window. Below, workers were taking down the Clayton Tech Ventures sign from the building lobby. The company's assets had been seized. The stolen technology returned to its rightful owners. Rival Tech's CEO called again, Grace said. They want to meet about a legitimate collaboration this time. Set it up. I turned back to the room. But first, I need to see someone. At the county jail, Faith sat across from me in an orange jumpsuit, her designer clothes and confidence long gone. Come to gloat? She asked. No, I came to return this. I placed her wedding ring on the table. You left it in the bathroom. She stared at it. You could have just divorced me. You didn't have to destroy everything. Like you were planning to destroy me? It wasn't personal, she whispered. Just business. Stealing my father's retirement? Betraying our marriage? Seems pretty personal. A guard approached. Time's up. I stood. Goodbye, Faith. Wait, she called as I reached the door. Was any of it real? Us? You tell me. You're the expert at fake relationships. Back at the office, Dad waited with Grace and Monica. How'd it go? It's done. I loosened my tie. All of it. Monica handed me a coffee. The tech blogs are calling it the scandal of the year. Jordan and Faith's reputations are destroyed. Speaking of destroyed, Grace smiled. Your new project approval came through. The one they tried to steal? Good. I sat at my desk. Time to build something real. Son, Dad said quietly. I'm sorry I didn't see through them. They fooled a lot of people, but never again. My phone buzzed one last time. Dwayne sending final surveillance photos. Faith and Jordan in handcuffs. Their empire of lies reduced to evidence boxes and court documents. You know what the funny thing is? I said to the room. They thought they were so clever. The long con, the perfect plan. But they forgot something basic. What's that? Monica asked. The truth always comes out. Always. Grace raised her coffee cup. To new beginnings? No, I smiled. To justice. We all raised our cups as the afternoon sun painted the office in gold. Outside, the city moved on, but something had changed. Not just in the business world, where the Clayton Tech scandal would become a cautionary tale, but in me. I picked up a framed photo from my desk. Faith, Jordan and me at last year's Christmas party. All those fake smiles. I dropped it in the trash. Meeting in 10 minutes, Grace reminded me. That legitimate collaboration you wanted? Right. I stood up, straightening my jacket. Let's go build something honest for a change. Dad clapped my shoulder as we walked out. The office hummed with purpose, with truth, with vindication. They'd tried to burn my world down. Instead, I'd risen from the ashes, stronger and wiser. Sometimes that's the best revenge of all.